Hilton brings you new ways to stay. With experiences that let you capture the glory days. Introducing the Graduate Hotels. Each inspired by local college towns, these stays are always original and never boring. Get in touch with traditions all across the country and enjoy a stay that's a class above the rest. Book at Graduate Hotels with Hilton Honors Points at Hilton.com. It's a win-win. Hilton, for the stay.
This episode is brought to you by Indeed. When your computer breaks, you don't wait for it to magically start working again. You fix the problem. So why wait to hire the people your company desperately needs? Use Indeed's sponsored jobs to hire top talent fast. And even better, you only pay for results. There's no need to wait. Speed up your hiring with a $75 sponsored job credit at Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply.
This episode is brought to you by Walmart. New beauty is in bloom at Walmart, and it's all about springtime radiance. From Drybar, Tula Skincare, and hundreds more available online, Walmart has the premium brands you want and this season's on-trend products for flawless, glossy hair and hydrated skin. Big name beauty brands? Check. The things you love? Check. Find trending spring beauty and all you need to look and feel gorgeous at Walmart, on app and online.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Dynasty Rankings YouTube channel. We are live from Nate's house in Maryland. We're going to be recapping day 2 of the NFL draft and all the fantasy implications. I'm your host, Michael Bauer, joined today by my faithful co-host, Nate, Professor Christian. Nate, hello.
What's up, guys? We have a different camera setup today. A little bit of a different microphone setup. So let us know in the comments how our audio sounds. I know the video looks good. I can see it myself. But let us know how the audio is sounding. We had to make some changes based off of yesterday, but we think we're good to go. So let us know. But I'm excited about what happened last night. I'm excited for today. Zach, what are you thinking, man?
Yeah, a lot of interesting fantasy landing spots. We'll get into it one by one, but I think it was, listen, maybe you didn't like some of the landing spots, but it was lucrative enough for like content, right? Because there was 14 wide receivers, 6 running backs, 6 tight ends, 4 or 5 quarterbacks. I mean, that's 25 fantasy relevant players in the first 2 days. So that's more than 2 rounds in your rookie drafts. Pretty awesome.
Plus 6 quarterbacks.
Not the quarterback that we were all expecting to see go. Do you guys want to just start off with that right away? I mean, look, Shedeur Sanders still on the board, heading into round 4. It's going to be starting in about an hour and 20 minutes. We're going to take you guys pretty close up to the draft. Then we're going to log off. Just want to remind everybody real quick, super chat questions do get first priority here. And also, Patreon.com/Dynasty Run. If you want to come in and get a week for free, it is on me. So definitely check that out. But super chats, they do get first priority. But let's right off the rip. Shedeur Sanders still on the board, heading into round 4. Multiple times he was passed up. We saw the likes of Jalen Milroe, Tyler Shuck get drafted. I did see a good tweet today. It said the Saints got kicked out of the draft room, and when they logged back on, Yahoo had auto-selected Tyler Shuck for them. I don't know if there's any accuracy to that. It was a good tweet, though, or post, whatever they call it on X now. Dylan Gabriel goes to the Cleveland Browns ahead of Shedeur Sanders. The Raiders had 2 back-to-back picks. Did not take him. What the hell?
I don't know, man. I thought Geno Smith being the guy in front of Shedeur Sanders, especially in the 3rd round when they had those 2 picks, I thought that'd be like the perfect spot for him to go late. Pick him up. At that point, what's the draft capital investment? But Shedeur Sanders being on the board at this point, obviously, it's not a talent thing. Like, we all know Shedeur Sanders is better than Dylan Gabriel, and that's not a knock on Dylan Gabriel. I like Dylan Gabriel, but Shedeur Sanders is a top 3, top 4 quarterback at worst in this draft, and it's not a very strong draft, but obviously the interviews did not go well. Obviously, teams do not want to mess with the media circus that is the Sanders right now, so they're hands off, and this drop is kind of unprecedented. I don't think it's necessarily right, but hey, those teams, they got to make sure that they're setting themselves up for success. It is a business, and this is a business move here, not an on-the-field NFL move.
Yeah. I think that you used the exact word unprecedented. There's a lot of new things that come through the pipeline with the NIL in the college game. We don't know if this is an interview thing. We don't know if this is a personality thing. We don't know if it's his surroundings, like, with Shedeur comes Dion, right?
Mm.
All I know is we've never seen anything like this before, and this could be a product of what's happening in college football. Like, one of the theories I heard was, hey, he got paid $6 million last year. Like, he's not hurting for money. And in the interviews, people didn't see like a love for football, a want to grind, so to say. And so, if when you're Shedeur and you come with that package of Dion, and remember in February he was like, "Hey, there's some landing spots we don't want Shedeur to go. We're going to navigate that." Like, nobody wants to deal with that. So this is very unprecedented. I don't think there's one right answer as to what's happening. It'll be interesting to sift through what ends up happening today and what happened with Shedeur, but you're going to get stuff like this that we've never seen before with what's happening in college football and how much money players are making. I don't know if it's specifically the money and he doesn't need money and so on and so forth. I'm just saying there's no one right answer here, because it's not like Shedeur went in there and, was belligerent and rude to every single general manager. Like, something happened, but I think this is just a whole process that we've never seen before, we're not aware of, and there's no one right answer to what's happening with Shedeur Sanders.
There's a good comment here from Bolt Bleeder. Nobody wants to get involved with the Sanders family, and I think this is important to note, because if you draft him and you go into a situation where that team doesn't do well and they want to fire their coach, the automatic analysis is Deion Sanders is the next coach of insert team here. A lot of teams do not want the media circus. I think the only team in the NFL I can say that would want that smoke, as they say, would probably be the Dallas Cowboys. So there's a possibility. Look, their current quarterback was drafted in the 4th round, Ryan Prescott, only quarterback in NFL history to lose to a 7 seed in the playoffs. I just want to remind everybody of that. Also, we've had 3 popes since the last time the Dallas Cowboys has made an NFC Championship game. Zach, you're shaking your head because you love it. But Bolt Bleeder, this is a great comment. Nobody wants to get involved with the Sanders family. And I know that some people say that even bad publicity is good publicity. Not really. It's bad as bad, no matter how you shake it.
Yeah.
So let's take a couple. Let's see here. Let's see. This is a good one right here. This is from Sean. Where are you drafting Travis now? Travis Hunter. Where are we drafting him now? Zach, why don't we start with you on that?
Yeah, I mean, obviously you guys know I have a couple of drafts that have already started, and he's going right where Nate said in our mailbag video, which, by the way, if you missed, I mean, you missed a lot of content that came to fruition yesterday. One that I'm going to just pop my shoulders about later. But he's going around the 1.4, 1.5 now in mock drafts. Like, he is it's a good landing spot. It's a good system. Maybe his ceiling is a little capped with BTJ there. But the concerns about where he was going to play, how much is he going to play on offense, I think those are gone. And so you're seeing Travis Hunter being drafted around 1.4, 1.5 in drafts now, maybe 1.6, but I did a couple rookie drafts before the NFL draft, and Travis Hunter was 110, 111. I don't think you'll be able to get him there anymore. So if you want Travis Hunter, you're probably going to have to get him in the top 5 of your rookie drafts.
Yeah, I think that's about right. I think like the 105 is definitely going to be like his floor, 106 at worst. But I don't think there's a ton of elite talent at this draft, that's going to push him down. So, and I think he's an elite talent. I'm already upset. We'll get into it as we get pick by pick, but I'm upset that Trayvon Henderson was not one of the first 3 running backs off the board.
You did not like that landing spot.
I don't love the landing spot because Ramondre Stevenson's there. I'll wait till we actually, get into it, all of us. But that was one that kind of upset me last night. But there's also a couple in there that, I really like. So, last night you gave us both some good landing spots and some landing spots I'm not too excited about. But
well, here's a good one here from A-Town 21. Judkins or Henderson? I mean, for me right now,
no brainer.
I have said numerous times that we always look for that bell cow, right? And it's really hard to kind of get that now with the way the NFL plays, a lot of 2-back systems. But for me, I think that Jerome Ford is less of a threat to Quinshon Judkins than Ramondre Stevenson is to Trayvon Henderson. Obviously different skill sets, but we saw what the Browns like to do with Nick Chubb in the past. Quinshon Judkins projects as more of a Nick Chubb does to me. So for me, this is Judkins over Henderson. Nate, are you still on Henderson? Or, we always said we don't get take lock here. We're not afraid to adjust. Have you adjusted? Are you still Henderson over Judkins?
I don't really know for sure yet. I have them in the same tier. It's going to be Ashton Jennings. It's going to be O'Marion Hampton. And then it's going to be Judkins and Henderson still. I still like Henderson. With Ramondre Stevenson, that can be a nice 1-2 punch. We saw Trey Henderson, be a part of a committee at Ohio State and still be really, really good, really, really productive. So I don't see why he can't do that at the NFL level as well. I don't think he needs a ton of volume to be productive for your fantasy team. So I think this still works, especially if the Patriots offense gets to where we want it to be. If Drake May really is that future of that franchise and a game-changing franchise quarterback, then Trey Henderson's going to be just fine. He can still be a top 12 running back in that offense if it gets to where we want it to be. But I think the more immediate impact, the easier, safer floor is Quinshon Judkins with the kind of volume he's going to get with the Browns. The question with him is the opposite question of what we're asking with Trayvon Henderson. It's like, what's that offense going to look like at the quarterback position? We know who it is for the Patriots, and that gives me hope for what that team looks in the future. But at the Browns, what? I'm working with
Jerome Ford?
No, Dylan Gabriel.
Oh, okay.
Joe Flacco.
Super Bowl champion Kenny Pickett.
We'll see. We'll see. But Quinshon Judkins can handle a ton of volume. That's a player that they can, grind through the middle of the tackle as they try to find their quarterback of the future. So, I can see Judkins getting 300 carries this year. He's that kind of player. We had him, set up for that. We knew he could be a workhorse at the next level. He's now going into a situation where he gets to have a ton of opportunity. He's a good pass catcher. This actually does take Judkins ahead of Henderson slightly for me, but I still am a really big fan of Henderson. And if he drops down drafts into that second half of the first round, he's going to be one of my favorite values. And I'll probably have a ton of it.
Zach, I want you to take this question right here. I think you were a fan of this pick. And this is from John. RJ Harvey, first round pick now. I was quite vocal last night. Obviously, we weren't live streaming, just here, us hanging out. I'm not the biggest RJ Harvey fan. I did not like the pick to the Denver Broncos. I just thought there were better running backs on the board at that time. Clearly, Sean Payton has something he likes about RJ Harvey. But Zach, as our resident Florida man here, RJ Harvey playing at UCF, what do you think about this? Is he a first-round pick in your, we'll say Superflex or one quarterback? One quarterback obviously bumps him up. Is he a first-round pick for you?
I think you have to entertain the idea, depending on your team need. And if you're there at the end of the first round, like I wouldn't be looking any earlier than 110, 111. I wouldn't feel good about it. But, we look for opportunity in our fantasy rookie drafts. And RJ Harvey probably lands into one of the most voluminous opportunities. I hope I said that right. But, who's there to take work away? Like Audric Estime? Okay. Yeah. I'm not the biggest Audric Estime guy. And this is a second-round pick. This is high draft capital. We can talk about the Broncos later. I thought they reached on their third-round pick as well, as much as I like the pick. Probably. You can probably take RJ Harvey at the end of your first round of your rookie drafts and feel okay about it. Not my favorite running back. I don't think I had RJ Harvey in my top 7 or 8 running backs. I think he was kind of in that next tier. I thought for sure he'd be a day 3 pick. I did not see this coming. But, as you said, we can't just get locked into these takes because whether or not he's your favorite running back on film, does he land in a good opportunity? And the answer to that is absolutely. This is one of the best landing spots for any running back. And the fact that he got round 2 draft goal, I don't know how you can at least entertain RJ Harvey at the end of your first round.
Curtis with a good point here. RJ Harvey, biggest bait, can't pass block at all. Nate, you remember from our Patreon episode, that was one of the issues that I had with him. People always harp on me about why do you care about pass block? It keeps these players on the field. It's that easy. They just drafted Bo Nix. If you can't keep your franchise quarterback upright, you're not going to be on the field. I would give Audric Estime probably the leg up over him there. And A-Town 21 saying Harvey to Denver is the perfect fit. But second round seemed high, and that's why I didn't like the pick. I just thought in the second round, they could have done so many different things there. Got to adjust now. He's late first now. So, okay. And look, you're not having take lock. I'm probably, obviously, depending on how the board falls to me in my draft, I'll question it. If I don't like it, and that seems a logical thing, I'll try to trade out like we see these NFL teams doing here. So let's see what we have here. This is a good question from Micah. What receivers are you giving up for Genty? Have an offer of Nico and the 204 for the 101. Nico Collins has some competition now. Jaden Higgins coming in. Jalen Knoll there as well. Dalton Schultz still in the building. We know Tank Dell injured, unlikely to play this season. So this is a good question. What do you think of this offer, Nate? Nico and the 204 for the 101. You're getting a generational talent at running back, and you're giving up a very good wide receiver that now has some competition.
Yeah, I'm not worried about Nico Collins' competition at all. Day 2 wide receivers. I mean, I like Noel, I like Higgins, but don't worry about Nico Collins. He needed some help there anyway. Diggs is gone. Tank Dell's not coming back until at least next year, and we don't even know what that looks like at this point. So Nico Collins, not worried about any kind of competition that he's getting here. I do like Genty quite a bit. I would say this is a fair offer. I think, Nico for me is close to a top 5 wide receiver in fantasy football. I love what he brings to the table. But Ashton Genty, with the Raiders, I think they're going to run the ball a ton. We talked about it yesterday. He's in line for 300 carries and I think another 40 receptions at least. So the upside there at the running back position. If you have running back depth, I might trade the 101 for Nico in the 204. If you need a running back, I think this is an okay trade to go get a guy like Ashton Genty if you have the wide receiver depth to make up for losing Nico Collins. I do like the fact you get a second-round pick on top of it, because I think Nico Collins is pretty close to the 101 just by himself. You could argue that I'd rather have Nico than the 101 in some teams. So getting the second-round pick on top of that, I think if you're trading away the 101, it's a pretty good trade. I think it's also a pretty decent trade for the 101 if that's what you're looking for.
Zach, I'm going to kick this over to you. This is from Warrior King 77. Is CJ Stroud a buy now? We also had another comment up here, and I will look for it. Paul was saying, is Stroud a winner from the draft? The Texans need to fix the O-line still, but we can kind of lump those together. So would Stroud be a buy for you? What they did offensively, obviously giving him more firepower, didn't have the sophomore season we had hoped for. But what do you think about that? Is he a buy for you?
Well, this is a very multi-layered answer. Right?
Obviously, it depends on the price.
Well, here's the thing. I don't think the Texans think offensive line is as big as an issue as we do. And they've gone about the offensive line behaving that way. They changed offensive coordinators in the offseason, so there's a new there's a new system coming in. They replaced Laramie Tunsil with Cam Robinson. They signed a new guard in Laken Tomlinson. They signed Trent Brown for a tackle position. They drafted Ariante Ursary at 48. So there's 4 new offensive linemen right there. I don't think the Texans think offensive line is as big of an issue as we're talking about. Then they went and drafted Jaden Higgins and Jalen Noel, which, dang, I did not see that coming. And they traded for Christian Kirk. So, I think CJ Stroud is absolutely a buy. He averaged 18.3 fantasy points his first season, was under 13 last season, but obviously there was a lot of reasons. And I think the Texans think it was a systematic issue. And so, and for that reason, that's why they moved on from Bobby Slowick. And sometimes that's true. It's just this system is not working for the players we have. We're going to move in a different direction. So, CJ Stroud is a buy now. And I get it. Like, we want to be concerned about the offensive line. They're behaving in a way that it doesn't really concern them that much. So I'm just going to go with what they're telling me because I'm not an expert more so than the people in their building. Nick Caserio is a very well-respected general manager, and I'm just going to take his word for it that, hey, they've addressed the offensive line the way they want to, and it's not as big as a problem as we're making it out to be.
Okay. Got a good one here. This is from Mike. This Mike is going to take this one. How are you approaching tight end? Warren and Loveland late first or punt and take one of the guys drafted day 2 later? But the Colston Loveland landing spot was a little confusing. I think Tyler Warren probably went to a better situation overall. His competition there won't be as good. But like I say with receivers and tight ends, you're not just buying that player, you're buying the quarterback too. So which quarterback do you trust more, Caleb Williams or the combination of Anthony Richardson / Daniel Jones / I expect them to draft a quarterback to develop this today as well. This obviously depends on your team. If you have a really good tight end and you don't need it, I'm still fine with taking these guys. But if you want to punt, we got guys like Mason Taylor to the Jets. I don't hate that landing spot as much as other people do, although it kills all my Kenny Yeboah shares. Terrence Ferguson to the Rams, I think, is a fantastic pick.
Love that.
Elijah Arroyo to the Seahawks, I'm not a fan of. Or Elijah Arroyo, as Sean Alexander called him last night. I'm not as big of a fan of that. Nate and I talked about him on the Patreon. Great straight line speed as far as, just pure athleticism and agility. Not much there. I don't think he's super physical, so I don't really know how he's going to be utilized in Seattle. Then we have Harold Fannin Jr. go to the Browns. And the problem with that is you still have David Njoku there. David Njoku is a much better all-around tight end than Harold Fannin. Maybe Harold Fannin Jr. is a little bit more dynamic as a pass catcher. So if you're going to punt the tight end position and not take one of these 2 guys and you're going to trade back, make sure that you're either getting really good draft capital next year if you don't need it now, or you're trading that for a player that can play for your team right now and help you win if you're taking away from what could be a generational talent at the tight end position. Let's see what we got here. Dane says, how are you approaching Hunter or Matthew Golden in Superflex? I do feel Hunter as a wide receiver is capped with Brian Thomas Jr. I disagree with that. While Golden is in a crowded room, I think Travis Hunter has much more opportunity to be fantasy relevant right away than Matthew Golden does.
I'm not worried about the cap with Brian Thomas Jr. there. There's only the two of them, really. There's not like a third wide receiver there. I love Parker Washington as much as the next guy here, but he's a wide receiver 3 at best at this next level. They got rid of Evan Ingram, who was taking up a lot of targets at the tight end position. Brenton Strange, we're going to be excited about him and what he could possibly do. But, I mean, it seems like this offense, passing-wise, is going to run through these two guys. And there's going to be plenty of volume for the both of them. Trevor Lawrence, I think, is a very underrated quarterback, despite not maybe hitting the heights that we expected him to hit when he came out as a prospect. So I'm not worried at all about the limitations on Travis Hunter, especially because he's really good after the catch as well. So I think he's going to be efficient with the targets that he does get. Golden, I did talk about yesterday, is definitely going to be in a crowded wide receiver room, and that does kind of cap his potential for me and why I'm not as high on Matthew Golden after this first round as some other people. But I'm kind of upset that we're not talking about Ted McMillan as much as we should be.
Yeah.
I think Ted McMillan, I love Travis Hunter,
Great
but
landing spot.
Ted McMillan might be the wide receiver 1 in this draft for fantasy.
Zach, I want to kick this to you. How do we feel about second-round rookie picks? Still to be determined depending on what happens with running backs today?
Yeah, kind of. We still have some pretty good running backs available. And Nate and I were talking about this yesterday, that there are some landing spots today that if a running back was taken in the 4th round, I wouldn't care that it's a day 3 running back. Like if the Dallas Cowboys took a running back in the 4th round, I don't care that it's a day 3 pick. And with the second-round pick, I'd be willing to take that risk on because, again, there's opportunity. The only running backs in that room are Javonte Williams and Miles Sanders. So you have to really wait and see to see where some landing spots are. But there are some running backs that talent-wise definitely are worthy of being second-round rookie picks in your drafts. Devin Neal, Cam Scatterbu, Dylan Sampson, I think, are the 3 that
Quinn Allen.
not quite. That jumped right off the bat. So
maybe Jordan James, Bashaw Tootin.
Jordan James for sure. Bashaw Tootin.
He's also adding his landing spots. He's saying Dallas and Washington as well. So far, the Commander, we got Brian Robinson Jr., DeAndre Swift, both Dallas running backs. These guys are huge winners. Pacheco, huge winners right now through 2 days of the draft. Job security.
The biggest one is like you remember that scene in The Matrix where he's dodging the bullet. That's DeAndre Swift right now.
Yeah, for
because
sure.
they had 3 picks in the top 45, and then they had a 3rd-round pick, and they still didn't take a running back.
Well, they might have picked up a running back in the 2nd if Henderson and Judkins didn't go right before they ran.
Very true. Very true, because I think they traded back after that.
Yeah,
so
they did.
Yeah.
And I will say, usually I'm the first person to want to take day 2 wide receivers over day 3 running backs. But I do think that this year is going to be a little bit of a change for me. I'm going to be going after 4th-round running backs before some of these 3rd-round wide receivers.
What's up, dudes? You look like you're about to crush some bowls of soup. It's coffee right now, soup later.
Funny.
Then here we go. Giants may grab someone too today. Yes, Tyrone Tracy, another guy who
Also,
took 2 days of draft, is a winner. Show support. Smash the like. Yes, please smash the like. And don't forget, you could also you could subscribe to this channel, and you will get.
Please.
So if you don't want to be a patron of ours, you don't want to go through Patreon. Some people don't like it. Completely understood. But you want the bonus content, you could become a member on Spotify. It's $2.99 a month. You get all of our bonus podcasts there. You could also be a YouTube member. I do upload all the videos for our bonus Patreon shows there as well. So if you want to support, you could do that. And look, being a YouTube member is free as well. Just hit like, share with your friends. That helps us, and it's free to you to do as well. There is one I wanted to go back here to, and this is from Yoda. The Bears have nobody outside of their top 3. Their wide receiver 4 is Tyler Scott. This was going to Paul's question. Any chance DJ Moore gets traded? Crowded receiving core with Rome, Loveland. Maybe they trade for a running back. They also drafted Luther Burden. And then Yoda was responding with the Bears have nobody outside their top 3. Their wide receiver 4 is Tyler Scott. They wouldn't trade Moore. He did correct that too. So what do you guys think about this? I think trading DJ Moore, and I did look into the contract stipulations. I do believe it would be very expensive to just straight up cut DJ Moore. And if you trade him, you're still going to be on hook for some of that money as well. So, Nate, what do you think about that? You are the resident DJ Moore truther.
Former Terp, DJ Moore. So DJ Moore, 28 years old still, not that old. I feel like he's been in the league forever because I believe he came in at like 20 years old. I don't see them trading DJ Moore. This is a team that has really tried to build around Caleb Williams and give him options. Maybe at some point, they move on from DJ Moore, in a year or two. What's the contract look like, Zach?
4 years, $110 million. They just signed him to last offseason.
Yeah. I love Romadunze. I love Luther Burden as well. But DJ Moore is someone that we've seen be really, really productive at the NFL level. And it's still going to be the wide receiver 1 for Caleb Williams. I think Romadunze has an opportunity this season to try and be competitive for the wide receiver 1 position. But I don't think Luther Burden is going to be that guy this year, maybe not even next year with Romadunze there. I think they just have a really good setup there, knowing that DJ Moore is probably only there for like 2 more years. But, when you're setting up around your face of the franchise quarterback, you want to give him all the weapons you can. And they've obviously done that. So they've really heavily invested this year in offense. I expect moving forward, you're going to see a lot of draft picks on the defensive side of the ball for the Bears. I think they still draft a running back at some point today, but I think this rest of this draft and next year, you're going to see a lot of defensive picks, a lot of offensive line picks for the Bears. This was their draft for skill position players, obviously, and they're going to take these 3 guys at the wide receiver room, let them flourish, let Colson Loveland, let Cole Kmet flourish, and then DeAndre Swift and whoever they add there. So I'm not worried about them moving DJ Moore.
I'm not either. It is a significantly less dead cap hit if he's traded than if he's cut. I'm looking at it right now on over the cap. It's only a $16 million dead cap hit if they trade him before June 1st this year. It's 8.9 after June 1st. I don't see it happening. Maybe this is something that they could look at next offseason. It's only a $12 million hit if he's traded next offseason. But just listen, this is the same general manager. Maybe if Ryan Poles wasn't there, I would think that DJ Moore maybe is not a part of their plans. But it's the same guy who gave him an extension just 1 year ago. So I don't necessarily think that DJ Moore, just because they drafted Luther Burden, we don't always have to do that, right? Like, oh, this guy's here, who's out? It's like sometimes you're planning for a year or two down the road. And really, they're just trying to surround Caleb Williams with as many weapons as possible.
Yep.
The Chicago Bears, nor does any NFL team care about our fantasy teams. Okay, this is a really awesome draft pick for the Chicago Bears. It really sucks for Luther Burden in our fantasy league.
Yeah.
Let's see, Zach. I want you to talk about this one because you were drafting him kind of everywhere in your rookie drafts that were going on before and during the draft.
Yep.
If you have Shuck as quarterback 3 in a startup, are you holding or moving while the stock is high? Just keeping in mind, this is your quarterback 3. Mm-hmm. You're not starting him from day 1. Zach, what are you doing here?
I don't see – if you want to – first of all, I hate this strategy, and this is not a comment to you, Steve, and you know this, and you know this. Like, do you sell Amon-Ra St. Brown now? Do you sell Puka now? Do you sell Kyron? I hate that we do that with fantasy. We treat I'm not the person that treats my fantasy asset like a stock, right? I am somebody that treats my fantasy asset like I want to build around this player on my fantasy team. That may be a different approach than some of you, but if I'm buying Tyler Shuck as my quarterback 3 and I want to sell him, he's going to be the starting quarterback at some point. This season, with all the Derek Carr issues, there's nobody else there. It's Spencer Rattler who – if Kellen Moore cared that much about Spencer Rattler, he's not spending a top 40 pick on Tyler Shuck. So if you do want to sell Tyler Shuck, wait until he's the starter because he will be the starter at some point. Whether it's Derek Carr throwing concussion balls to Chris Olave or Derek Carr hurting his shoulder for the 17th time or Derek Carr just not being a good NFL quarterback, Tyler Shuck eventually will be the starting quarterback there. So if you are buying him and you want to sell him, I would wait until we get to that precipice where he's taking snaps from under center because Kellen Moore drafted him to be his quarterback.
Yeah. Zach, I know you love talking about defensive players too. So this is from Himstopher53. Thoughts on Niners going all defense? Shanny has to be going through withdrawals. They had obviously some needs there. I know we want to see offensive players go to the Kyle Shanahan system. I guess it's still the Mike Shanahan system to me, an old guy. Zach, what are your thoughts on this? You love talking defense. You were predicting defensive players Thursday night and last night. So what do you think about this, man?
Well, I couldn't list you all the names of players they lost in free agency, but they lost a lot of players in free agency. And you'll see next year, they're going to get like 2 third-round compensatory picks, 2 fourth-round compensatory picks. They lost some big names on that defense.
Yeah.
And I kind of fully expected this. I thought maybe they would do the 49ers thing and take a day 3 wide running back like they always do. Didn't see it. I fully expect, like, they got 2 4s, they got 2 5s, they got 3 7s. I think they're going to take a running back at some point. I don't know who it is. Let's go Jacory Krosky-Merritt. But I really did expect the 49ers, at least their first 2-3 picks, to go fully defensive picks. They needed an edge. They needed a corner. They needed a safety. They lost all those. Like, I think 2 of those guys went to the Broncos, Shavarius Ford and someone else, I can remember. But they lost a lot on this defense. Obviously, they lost some on offense, offensive line. They lost Debo. They're still talking contracts with Purdy and Kittle right now. They traded Jordan Mason. So I really did expect the 49ers to go defense. It wasn't one of the landing spots that any of us were really talking about that some of your fantasy relevant offensive players were going to go to. And I think that's because they had a lot of needs defensively.
All right. Here's one right here. We'll go through this kind of quick. Am I the only one that wants to buy a lot of Rome Odunze after last night? Not sure where the first round cutoff is for him. And then A-Town saying buy low on Rome. Yeah, I mean, for sure, if you could get Rome Odunze cheaper, if people want to panic about Luther Burden as a rookie coming in, Rome Odunze didn't produce exactly what we wanted him to last year, but he's going to second year. He's got a much more dynamic offensive system, a second-year quarterback coming in too. So for sure. And then here's a good one right here. This is from A-Town 21. Great questions today, A-Town 21. Rome or Tet?
Tet. I love me some Rome, and I would have Rome over Tet as a prospect. Let's be clear. Like, Tet McMillan would have been wide receiver 4 in last year's class behind the 3 guys that got drafted at the top.
So this is opportunity over talent?
This is opportunity. I think the talent is somewhat similar. I'm not going to say that Rome Odunze is like head and shoulders above Tet McMillan talent-wise. I think that you could argue they're in the same tier. But with the opportunity now, it's a very crowded wide receiver room and just receiving room in general in Chicago now with Colston Loveland there as well, in addition to Luther Burden. So with the Panthers, McMillan has the opportunity. I don't know about his rookie year, but they don't really – I'm not scared of Xavier Legette or 38, 50-year-old Adam Thielen, however old he's going to be at this point. McMillan could see 150 targets in that offense. I don't know if it'll happen his rookie year, but unless they bring in some huge talent over the next offseason, his second year, he could see 150 targets plus. McMillan is set up for a ton of volume with the Panthers right now. And that's what I always chase in fantasy football because I don't actually know what's going to happen. But if I can chase the volume, usually good things can follow.
The good thing about this time of the offseason, right after the draft, when all these new exciting players come in, especially at the wide receiver position, this is when I buy year 2 wide receivers.
Yep.
Xavier Legette, Rome Odunze. All of a sudden, Luther Burden gets drafted, Tet McMillan gets drafted. Everyone wants to say, screw these old guys. Now they're old guys. Well, Xavier Legette was a little bit older coming into the league. But look, if people want to give these players away at a discount because a new and exciting prospect came in, cash in. They're not going to stop being fantasy relevant. Look, steel sharpens steel, hungry boats drink more water, whatever you want to say. I forget what that saying is. That's just what we're going with now. These players come in, they take coverage off the guys that were there last year. People refuse to see it that way. So go ahead. Just make some noise in your league, throw some trades out there, see if you can get these guys cheaply. Maybe if the 49ers draft somebody today, Ricky Pearsall might be a buy for you as well. He did come on a little bit towards the end.
Quick question, Mike. Sure. I'm a little confused on why we're talking about Rome Odunze so much. I get it. There's maybe a little buy low window.
In the comments. You guys are commenting about it.
They also drafted a tight end, and Cole Kmet is still there too. There's a lot. This is just like the Green Bay Packers, man.
Yeah.
There's a lot of mouths to feed in that offense now.
The difference is the Green Bay Packers have a better quarterback.
Well, the Green Bay Packers, the Green Bay Packers want to run the football.
They do.
I don't know if Ben Johnson is going to They didn't get a running back.
Buy Marshawn Lloyd.
Oh, I have a lot of Marshawn Lloyd. But I get it. I am often hey, buy this player low. Are you buying Rome Odunze with the expectation that he's going to be a top 24 fantasy wide receiver this year?
It could be.
Because
I don't think it's super likely.
TJ Moore's still there, Tyler Warren's there, Luther Burden is there, Cole Kmet is there.
I think what you have to do is if he's only going to be a wide receiver 2 or on your team or in the NFL, don't pay wide receiver 1 prices for him. Make sure that what you're paying lines up with what you think he will be. And if you can get these guys at a discount, that's what you want to do.
I just want to caution, and again, I've said this word a lot, like manage your expectations when you buy a Rome Odunze, because I'm not expecting a big ceiling year or two with Rome Odunze. Maybe they move on from DJ Moore next year. I don't know. But they added 2 other pass catchers in this draft alone. And I'm expecting at some point they get another running back.
Yeah.
So that is a very, very crowded pass catching room there in Chicago. And the expectation for us is, and we do this way too often, is that, Ben Johnson's coming, no problem. They're just going to transition into this Detroit Lions offense. Well, no, we did that last year with Caleb Williams. Maybe not us, but like the NFL community was like, Chicago Bears playoff team. Sometimes these things don't work out and they don't transition as smoothly as you want. Maybe, everybody that Ben Johnson wants to run his system isn't there yet. And so I would just say buy with caution. Like, manage your expectations for buying a Rome Odunze. I don't think he'd be a top 24 wide receiver.
It would be the hard for the Bears to get in the playoffs when you're still the worst team in the NFC North. Sorry, all Bears fan out there.
One last thing with Rome Odunze. Last year, he had 54 receptions, 734 yards, and 3 touchdowns. I think this year, with the additions they've made in the receiving room, I think we will see more receptions. So he had 101 targets last year. I think we'll probably see somewhere around 70 receptions for Rome Odunze. I'm not sure he will break 1,000 yards. It's going to depend on if this offense actually starts hitting on all cylinders. I think somewhere around 800 to 900 is probably more likely. But I do expect the 3 touchdowns to get better with Rome Odunze. That's something he was really good in college, was receiving touchdowns. You put all that together, and you're probably going to end up with a player that is in that wide receiver 3 category, somewhere around wide receiver 30 on the season. That's my expectations right now for Rome Odunze with what's happened in this draft so far. So about wide receiver 30, which is not bad. Definitely still a very useful player.
That's fair. I think that's a fair assessment. I just want to make sure that because we're going to get back in the comments if he's not a wide receiver 1. You told us to buy Rome Odunze. And I
didn't say he was going to be a wide receiver 1.
I'm big on, hey, manage your expectations when you're doing something. Like, know what to expect and be realistic about that. And I would agree with Nate. I think that's a great breakdown of an expectation for Rome Odunze is by knowing that you're getting maybe a wide receiver 3 this year and maybe a higher ceiling moving forward.
I wouldn't be surprised if we broke 1,000 yards, just not expecting it.
All right, that's enough Rome Odunze talk for the rest of this live stream. Bradley wants to know if the first 4 picks are Genty, Hampton, Tet, and Henderson, do you take Hunter or Judkins, especially if you need running back help?
Oh, man.
Hunter too good to pass. I'll tell you what, I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to take Travis Hunter, and I'm going to see if I can come back and get a guy like Caleb Johnson later, possibly, because I want Travis Hunter there. If he's there at that 105 and that's where you're picking,
I'm going Judkins, man.
You're going Judkins?
Dude, there's a lot of opportunity for him in that offense.
Right.
I trust Kevin Stefanski. I trust the run scheme that they run there. And at the same time, like, yes, Travis Hunter is an amazing talent, but Brian Thomas Jr. is there. And I'm expecting, like, just year 1 projecting Brian Thomas Jr. to have a better fantasy season than Travis Hunter.
Of course.
There's nothing there to stop Quinshon Judkins from being a top 12 running back. Like, let me know if you agree or disagree with that.
I agree. I mean, so I think in a vacuum, I think Travis Hunter is better than Quinshon Judkins. But when I'm talking about fantasy football and the fact that I can replace a wide receiver a little bit easier than I can replace a running back, I think I will lean Judkins, especially if I need the running back here. I was never down on Judkins throughout this whole pre-draft process. I had him in my top 5 this entire time. I was arguing him, when people were trying to talk about how he didn't have any long speed, wasn't athletic, was just a kind of in between the tackles kind of bum. And I was like, this is nonsense. Quinshon Judkins was incredible before he went to Ohio State. Went to Ohio State, shared snaps with Henderson, but still dominated the backfield, even with Henderson back there. Judkins is a guy that has been primed for the NFL for years. He's finally getting the opportunity. He's getting the draft capital that really we've expected for the last 3 years for Quinshon Judkins. I don't think anyone needs to think about him being, in the back half of the first round. I'm surprised Henderson would be going off the board before Judkins, quite honestly, with how this has worked out. Yeah. So I'm going to take Judkins there. Even though I do love Travis Hunter, it's a little bit easier to replace that kind of what I need at that position than it is to replace my opportunity cost and not taking Quinshon Judkins.
Zach, this one's for you. As a Garendo owner, should we be concerned about any day 3 running backs? And then, Nate, I have a question for you after this.
All right.
I was not a Garendo person last year. He gets a bump just because he goes to San Francisco. He wasn't even very productive in college.
He's fast.
He's fast.
He's big and fast.
I don't think he was super productive with the opportunities given.
He was also, I think he was in college for 5 years, or it might have even been
You guys
more.
It was a little bit.
Just if I'm a Garendo owner, I'm just not expecting anything. I'm just like, hey, this is a guy that if Christian McCaffrey gets hurt again, could slot in there. But I'm fully expecting them to take a running back at some point today, or even grab a UDFA running back, which, I mean, there's 15, 20 running backs that I like this year, going to the 4th through 7th rounds, or even UDFA. So there's going to be a lot of running backs that either get selected or that could sign with San Francisco that I'd be more excited about than Garendo. Personally, I'm just not a Garendo person.
So Isaac Garendo was in college for 6 years. The first 5 of those were at Wisconsin. At Wisconsin, his best season was in 2022 when he had 64 carries for 385 yards and 5 touchdowns. His last year in Louisville, 14 games, 132 carries, 810 yards, and 11 touchdowns. He also had 22 carries for 234 yards. 22 receptions for 234 yards. And look, the fact of the matter is he got the beneficiary of being big and fast in a Kyle Shanahan system. So, and we've also seen the San Francisco 49ers have no problem moving on quickly from day 3 running backs, guys like Jordan Mason, Tyron Davis, Price, Trey Sermon, even. I think he was a day 2 guy, though. So, you should be concerned about day 3 running backs, in my opinion.
Let me just point out something. Because you look at Isaac Garendo's stats, 420 yards, 5 yards carry, 4 touchdowns last year. That's awesome. Jordan Mason looked unbelievable in that offense last year. That's what I want if I'm the San Francisco 49ers. I want a running back that's going to look like Jordan Mason did, not just – and I know this sounds dumb.
All they had to do was keep
it. Like just average 5 yards a carry. Well, like they just want to siphon through running backs in that system. Like I know it sounds dumb to say 5 yards carry wasn't that good, but look at what Jordan Mason did when he was plugged in. He was like the #1 running back in broken tackles last year, in yards after contact in the 8 weeks that he started. That's what I would want if I was San Francisco with the system I have. As like Isaac Garendo, he ran through the open holes and got the yards that were there, but he wasn't getting extra yards after contact. He wasn't breaking tackles.
Not creative.
Right, exactly. That's the perfect way to put it. So not to poo-poo on Garendo's stats because they're nice on paper, but you watch him and he didn't look anything like Jordan Mason did as the backup in that system.
Curtis wants to know, Nate, I'm going to give this to you. If the Ravens take a day 3 back like Devin Neal to be Henry's hair, whereabouts in fantasy would you take him? I don't think he projects as much as Derrick Henry does. I don't think he's as physical as a player like Derrick Henry is, but Nate,
be a good player.
What do you think?
So whoever the Ravens pick up, I do expect them to draft somebody day 3 today. I don't know if it's going to be 4th or 5th round. I think it'd probably be more like 6th or 7th because they don't need someone. They got Derrick Henry there. They got Justice Hill there. They did just extend Derrick Henry. So whoever goes to the Ravens at this point, 3rd round pick at best for me. I'm not expecting any immediate production. They are riding Derrick Henry for another 2 years, I'd expect. They know what they have in Derrick Henry. And this is not a team that has ever given up really good opportunities to rookies, especially at the running back position. John Harbaugh does not give opportunities to running backs who are rookies most of the time. And I don't think they're going to give them, a lot of carries, even young guys, because they have 2 guys they really, really trust in Derrick Henry. And this team really, really trusts and appreciates Justice Hill, as do I. I think Justice Hill is very underrated. Of course, not maybe for fantasy football, except for he did have some really good weeks last year with his pass catching. But one of the better players actually on the Ravens who is underrated is Justice Hill. I think he's, really special for this team. So I would be giving up on Keaton Mitchell if I still had any Keaton Mitchell shares. I've tried to sell as many as I can. He was a lot of fun, but between the injury, the draft capital, them, the NFL continuously moving on and recycling players, I don't think there's much there for Keaton Mitchell anymore. And if they do pick a guy like Devin Neal, who, of course, I would love for NFL purposes, be a 3rd round pick for me.
Where are you taking Cam Ward? The current conversation seems like y'all, one of my least favorite words I prefer to use, wouldn't take him until 106-ish. I don't think that's the case necessarily. We were just mostly responding to what people had asked us based on what their drafts or what they were seeing so far. But Zach, where are you feeling comfortable with taking Cam Ward? I'll let you guys discuss while the old man hits the head real quick.
I don't see any reason why you couldn't start to have Cam Ward in that 102 conversation.
Yeah, I think that's fine.
I think there's a very clear second tier after Ashton Genty, and that is Cam Ward. I'm going to throw Quinshon Judkins in there now. Tedero McMillan, Travis Hunter, and Amari and Hampton. So I think, for me, as somebody who did 2 or 3 rookie drafts a couple of weeks ago before the rookie draft, you saw a very clear 101 and then like 102 to 105. I think that's now extended to 106. And you can even throw Colston Loveland in there if you want.
You can still throw Henderson in there, I think, at the very end of it.
I think I don't know. I just with his lack of opportunity there with Ramondre Stevenson.
I think he's still in that tier, but I think he's clearly at the end of the tier.
I would put him in the same tier as like a Emeka Egbuka, Matthew Golden now. Just like he's going to share work with Ramondre Stevenson. It's going to happen. It's also
like I don't want to say Trayvon Henderson, Jahmyr Gibbs, and Ramondre Stevenson's David Montgomery. But we said a lot of those same things about Gibbs, and look how that's worked out. If you're really, really productive and really efficient, which Trey Henderson is, that's one thing that we know about him is how efficient he is. He doesn't need as many touches as everyone else you just listed to be as fantasy productive. So I do think, I don't mind him being in that second, like that next tier and at the top of the tier, but also I do like him at the end of that tier.
Yeah.
It's kind of, this or that, kind of talking about the same thing.
But Cam Ward should you can start talking about him at 102.
It's a quarterback in Superflex, and I think Cam Ward has a really high ceiling. So, if you're waiting until the 106 to draft him, number one, that's an absolute steal. And if you're pushing him down to the 106, I think you're missing out because there's not a lot of quarterback depth in this class. That has been proven. So if you don't get Cam Ward, I'm not sure who you're going to be picking up, to be quite honest. I'm not going to be going after Tyler Shuck or Jackson Dart with any kind of aggression. So Cam Ward is the guy this year, and you might need to trade up for him. Cam Ward, I have no problem picking at the 102 if you need a quarterback.
All right, I got a good one here for you guys. This is from Jordan. Listen up. What are you paying for Sam Darnold now? Jalen Milroe going to the Seattle Seahawks, and they did point out that the last third-round pick of a quarterback in Seattle was Russell Wilson, and I did point out as well. Unfortunately, I didn't make it out on the broadcast, but Matt Flynn was signed to a big contract. Russell Wilson came in. I'm not saying that's going to be the case. It's just there are some parallels now.
Parallels.
What are you guys paying for Sam Darnold? Well, let's do it in a super flex format.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, it's hard to get a starting quarterback for less than a first. Like, it's going to be hard to get Sam Darnold for less than a first. Like, I don't necessarily want to pay a late first for Sam Darnold at this point, but I didn't necessarily want to pay a late first for Sam Darnold before this draft either. I think Sam Darnold had a lot of help from that Vikings offense and also the coaching staff there that made him look really good. I don't think he's as bad as maybe he looked in the playoffs at the end of the season, but I've never been totally, turned around on Sam Darnold. I think value-wise is still probably like that 111, 112 for Sam Darnold. I'm not worried about Jalen Milroe taking his job anytime soon, to be quite honest. Jalen Milroe is a developmental prospect who's going to be sitting at least 2 years, I would expect. And, 2 years from now, Sam Darnold, I don't know what the contract looks like exactly, but they likely could probably move on from him in 2 years if they really wanted to. So Sam Darnold, if I'm paying, I'm trying to get him for an early second. Maybe you have to wait until you're actually on the clock to make that happen, because I think a lot of people want to hold out for that first-round pick, which totally makes sense for a starting quarterback. I like JSN. Cooper Kupp's on the tail end of his career. I don't think that offense is necessarily set up for a lot of success for Sam Darnold either, especially when moving from the Vikings to the Seahawks. So for me, I'm not paying anything more than an early second, but it's going to be really difficult to make that move. Someone's going to want to late first.
And keeping in mind, an early second might not get it done, but if you don't want to pay the price that it takes and you're not high on that player, it's okay to look elsewhere for help. I had one that I want. Oh, we got a super chat coming. This is from a man, Waffle Hauser. Waffle Hauser in the Patreon.
Love Waffle.
Great dude. I'm in a league with him. Great. I'm heading back home on a 7-hour road trip. I'll be listening to this and yesterday's later. Keep grinding and growing. Be kind, rewind. Waffle, thank you so much. Now that we got a super chat, Zach is going to get naked and run down the street. We'll film that for the Patreon later. Here's a good one. So, Waffle, again, thank you very much. We really appreciate you. So this was kind of a shocker in the draft. Zach, you're pretty excited about this pick, though. Are we undervaluing Kyle Williams as the wide receiver 2 slot for New England? Diggs is on his farewell tour. Here's how on his farewell tour he is. I forgot Stephon Diggs signed in New England. So, but Zach, I want your thoughts on this, because you were kind of excited a little bit when this pick happened.
Well, first of all, I got Kyle Williams in both my rookie drafts prior to the NFL draft in the 4th round.
That's why he's excited.
First of all, it's New England and its wide receivers. Who knows, man? Who knows, right?
They don't mesh.
They don't.
Right? They really don't. But someone's got to work out there eventually.
It is a Josh McDaniels offense coming back to New England. So that's a good thing, right?
Yes.
Kyle Williams is very explosive. I think he had 14 touchdowns last year. I don't know if you have stats pulled up, but he had 14 touchdowns.
Yeah, 14 touchdowns, 101 targets, 70 receptions, just about 1,200 yards.
And
17.1 yards per catch. That's what Kyle Williams does really well. So he gets down the field. Zach, I'm going to let you finish in just a moment, but I do want to point out the wording of this is the wide receiver 2 slot. Kyle Williams is not going to be playing the slot. He's asking, is he going to be the wide receiver 2 for the Patriots? Kyle Williams will be playing most likely the flanker, I would say. Stephon Diggs, I guess, playing outside as the X because we got the Mario Douglas, of course, one of the best wide receivers there, playing in the slot. But Kyle Williams, that 17.1 yards per reception, this gives Drake May a deep threat. Now, the question for me is Kyle Williams more than a deep threat? Zach, I'll let you finish.
Yeah, he is. He's somebody that can work underneath as well. He a lot of his film is stuff at the line of scrimmage as well. Like it's a very like air raidy, spread you out kind of an offense over there at Washington State with John Mateer, who's now at Oklahoma. It's a really weird wide receiver room though. Like Jalen Polk's still there. I really liked Jalen Polk last year.
Javon Baker.
There's the X.
Javon Baker, I'm not
still there.
I was never like, ooh, Javon Baker's the greatest thing ever. Yeah, Keyshawn Butte.
Oh, baby.
That's the X.
Mario Douglas is still there. Like, it's a very crowded wide receiver room, so we'll see how that shakes out. But, Kyle Williams probably an interesting third-round pick now in your rookie drafts. I don't think I'd be taking him in the second round, just knowing it's crowded. That system's still going to take a lot of time to get better. And they still do have those 2 running backs now, Trayvon Henderson and Ramondre Stevenson. I think they're going to want to run the ball a lot. Yeah,
if Stephon Diggs is healthy to start the year, I think Kyle Williams actually probably plays a little bit behind Stephon Diggs. I think they probably play a similar position, and then at the X you do have Butte and Polk.
Learn from.
Yeah, I think Kyle Williams is going to be that flanker that Stephon Diggs can kick inside a little bit. So we'll see how much immediate opportunity he gets, but I do think a year or 2 from now, Kyle Williams certainly could be one of the top 2 targets for Drake May in that offense.
I have a really good question here, and this is from Bolt Bleeder again. He's coming up. Great questions today, by the way, Bolt Bleeder. Assuming you are a Chargers fan, who has a tougher route to starting, Jack Besh or Kyle Williams?
Kyle Williams. I think Jack Besh can walk in pretty quickly. Jacoby Myers, I think a lot of people want to make him a slot because we saw slot wide receivers do so well in New England for so long, and people still think of Jacoby Myers as that New England Patriot. But Jacoby Myers plays outside as the flanker. Jack Beck's going to walk in and be that slot wide receiver. I think this is a great opportunity for him. I think I've seen some other people on Twitter talk about how this is not really the landing spot they expected for Beck. And while it's not the landing spot I expected, I think it's a great spot. There's not really a bona fide wide receiver 1 there outside of Jacoby Myers and Brock Bowers, of course. So he's going to actually have more overlap with Bowers over the middle of the field than he is going to have with Jacoby Myers or any other wide receiver there.
Here's a good one here. This is from Jack. I don't think we got to this one yet. Where's Jackson Dart in your rankings now? Obviously, he's got to move up. He was drafted in the first round, I believe 25th overall.
Yeah, I mean, Zach, I'll let you, say what you want to say about it. But I'm thinking probably late first for me. I'm not convinced on Jackson Dart. There's also quarterbacks there in front of him, so it's not like he's going to start right away and his value is going to rise. I don't think he's going to be beating out Russell Wilson for a job anytime soon. So for me, late first, early second is where I'd be looking at Jackson Dart. And to be quite honest, I'm probably picking a couple other players before I end up hitting draft on Jackson Dart.
I think that's spot on accurate. I'm not taking him anywhere probably above 110.
No.
When you start to get to like Emeka Egbuka, Matthew Golden, maybe that's where you can start talking about Jackson Dart. But if I'm drafting Jackson Dart, I do not want him to play this year. He has not run an offense from under center. I don't want him to start this year. I want him to sit. I want him to learn. I want him to be exposed to an NFL style offense with 2 solid, NFL veteran quarterbacks in Jameis Winston and Russell Wilson. I don't want him to start this year. So there's an opportunity if you want to buy him later on in the year, potentially. But, if the Giants are losing a bunch of games, you could unfortunately see him thrown in there at the end of the year. And that's not to say he won't succeed. All of us were very low on Michael Penix last year, and that ended up working out where he saw action in the first year of his NFL career. But I would not want to see Jackson Dart for Jackson Dart's sake in his rookie season.
Got one from Paul here. Rebuilding. Would the 101 be enough to get Puka or Nico Collins? I feel like for the 101, it's either, depending on the league, Ashton Genty or Cam Ward. Shouldn't you get a little more than
If
that?
you're trading the 101 as a rebuilder, I want volume.
Yeah.
I want 2 or 3 for my 1. I don't want 1 for 1. when I can just get Ashton Genty.
Good call.
I don't know. I don't know where Genty and Puka and Nico line up. I think we talked about Nico.
All kind of similar. I think you can I think you can trade the 101 for Puka or Nico Collins. But like Zach said, if I'm trading the 101 because I'm rebuilding, I need 2, more likely 3 different players / picks to really make that worthwhile for myself. And I'm not talking about just adding a couple thirds on there. I mean, you need to have 2 or 3 really high value assets added to get rid of that 101.
Jordan 99 wants to know, how much more do I need to add to the 105 and a 26 first for Nico, or is that already pretty close?
Initial reaction is, if someone thinks that, the Texans adding some wide receiver competition, and, the 105 is pretty valuable at the moment, that might be pretty close, to be quite honest, depending on how they feel about your 26 first, if it's a late first, if it's a mid first, early first. I think that's probably pretty close, to be quite honest. Nico for me is kind of like a 2 first plus kind of guy. Maybe not quite 3 first, but 2 first plus. But you got the 105 there this year coming up. Rookie draft's probably coming up pretty soon. And depending on when the 26 first lands, I think that's probably a pretty fair trade-ish. Definitely a good starter.
I'd rather see if I can get Tet with that 105.
I mean, as much as I love Nico, depending on what your team needs are, you might be better off getting Tet with the 105 and keeping your 26 first.
If you can, and you might be dropping before then.
Yeah, that's true. Matt B wants to know, what roster will Dobbins throw a grenade into? Bears or Vikings? I don't know.
Cowboys. Another mid running back over there.
Oh, yeah.
I loved Dobbins for the longest time, but I'm not very interested in Dobbins moving forward, to be quite honest. I don't know how much an NFL team is either. He's still unsigned at this point.
If you have him on a roster and you couldn't get rid of him, and he comes out and does anything, you need to sell him immediately. Yep. Okay? Nick wants to know, with Brian Thomas Jr. being the breakout alpha, it's a pretty good way to talk about him, to think about it. Does that keep you guys from investing in Travis Hunter? Does it cap his upside?
No. There's not a lot of other competition in this wide receiver room or this receiving room in general. If it was Brian Thomas Jr., Evan Ingram still there, and they Christian Kirk was still there as well, then yeah, definitely. There'd be a crowded wide receiver room like we're talking about in Green Bay or even with the Patriots, even though the talent there is not quite as high. But when you're still a top 2 target in your offense, there's a ton of potential. I mean, Trevor Lawrence is going to throw the ball 500 times or something like that. I mean, there's plenty of targets to go around for both Brian Thomas Jr. and Travis Hunter. And Travis Hunter is a good enough athlete and a good enough of a prospect where I'm not worried about if he doesn't get like a ton of volume, him not being productive. He's going to be efficient with his touches. I think there's a ton of upside for both Brian Thomas Jr. and Travis Hunter here together. It's going to be very funneled between the 2 of these guys. They're going to get a ton of targets. Now, outside of those 2 guys, I'm not going to have a lot of investment into any of these pass catchers because, like I said, it's going to be funneled to these 2 players and then just the scraps of the rest of the guys. I wouldn't be surprised if the Jags don't have anyone else over 60 targets.
I think you made a good comparison yesterday, and not stylistically or player comp wise, just how this matches up fantasy speaking is very Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, in terms of how this lines up for Jacksonville, where you can have 2 guys being top 15, top 20 fantasy players for your leagues.
Let's look at the Jacksonville Jaguars wide receiver depth chart while we're at it. Their starters right now are listed as Travis Hunter, Diami Brown, Brian Thomas Jr. Then as backups, we have Joshua Cephas, Gabe Davis, Parker Washington, and then just 3 loads of crap after that. So I just think that there's going to be opportunity for both guys there, to be completely honest with you. I mean, I think the biggest person that gets impacted on this is Diami Brown.
Yeah, which
looks like he had an opportunity. I think that's pretty much shot to
I don't think we had a ton of faith in Diami Brown in the first place. We kind of knew he was going to have some competition out of it. Didn't know it was going to be Travis Hunter quite. But, Diami Brown at best is a good wide receiver 3. I don't think he was ever really going to fill that wide receiver 2 role for the Jaguars. Okay, Jordan. He has the 101 and then the 103, 105. So he has a lot of flexibility. Like Tet, just want to make sure I have a true wide receiver 1. I think Tet's a true wide receiver 1. Especially in this opportunity where he's got a ton of volume. I believe in Bryce Young still. I think Ted McMillan's a great pick. At the 105 is where I'd be trying to get him. I think the 103 might be a little rich because you probably want to go running back or maybe even Cam Ward there. But I think 103 is where you start thinking about Ted. But I think 105 is
that was just tacking on to the comment that he had earlier.
Let me give you some advice here, Jordan. What you can try to do here is know your league mates, right? 106. Go hit up 106 and say, Do you want to move up to 103? Because for them, it is a 3-pick jump. For you, you're moving back 1 spot. So I would hit up 106 here. Try to see if I can. If you want Tet and it looks like they need Tet, then maybe I'm not doing that. Yeah, but go to 106 and say, hey, do you want to move up to 103?
Get one of these running backs.
You can get something very good for moving back from 103 to 106. And for you, it only impacts you. You've only moved down 1 spot. Instead of 103 to 105, now you have 104 to 106. So just a little bit of strategy there and what you could try to do with that pick.
Yeah.
We got a good one here from Dancy. Any suggestions on what to do with the 110 when the championship? You have Ayuk, Olave, Brian Thomas Jr., Justin Jefferson, DJ Moore. I'm assuming that's Brendan Rice, Jacoby Myers. Running backs are James Cook, James Conner, ETN, Rashad White, Tajay Spears. Would like to upgrade running back.
That could be Rashee Rice, by the way.
I think it's probably Rashee Rice.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Rashee Rice. Sorry. My bad.
At the 110,
I'm excited about Brendan Rice, okay?
At the 110, I would probably be looking at Caleb Johnson.
Yeah.
If you're looking at the running back position. If he's there. I don't know. That's where we start talking about RJ Harvey. I don't think that necessarily upgrades any of your current running backs. I think
that's Jackson Dart territory.
I think I do like a running back there, but I don't know what your running back opportunity is going to be there. Like I said, Caleb Johnson is probably your best case scenario. You could look at RJ Harvey there. I think that's kind of his ceiling. It starts at 110 for why I'm comfortable picking him. And then maybe one of these day 3 running backs if they go off the board really quick to a really good opportunity. But even at that point, I think with the day 3 draft capital, even if they go to landing spot, they're probably still more of a 2nd-round pick. So it's kind of a tough spot to get that running back if you're looking for it. You might have to move up a little bit.
That's what I was going to say.
So, whether that is maybe packaging the 110 with a guy like Rashad White or Tajay Spears to move up just, two spots to make sure you get that Caleb Johnson or something like that. Or maybe you make a bigger move and you move up to like the 105 to try to get a Quinshon Judkins.
I want Judkins on this team.
That's the real move to make.
I want Judkins on this team. Yep. I would package up the 110, maybe a Jacoby Myers plus a 2nd-round pick and try to go.
What about the 110 and Chris Olave?
No, I'm too big of an Olave
fan. My God.
Yeah, I'm too big of an Olave fan.
He's going to be on the sideline.
Even with all the concussions and Derek Carr hospital balls, still love me some Chris Olave. But, Dancy, I would try to package up here. RG Harvey sounds good on paper. I just don't trust it yet. We saw how that running back room played out last year. And just based off the fact that he can't pass protect means he's going to come off the field. So you could still see a very 3-headed monster there in Denver, just maybe not as effective as it was last year. I want to go up and get me a Quinshon Judkins on this team because you're a championship team and you have an opportunity to win again next year.
Yep.
All right, Jack has a good one here. In a 12-team Superflex full PPR half-point tight end premium, has the 101 and the 102, and he has Bo Nix and Michael Penix Jr. Grab Genty and Hampton or grab Ward. Running backs suck. Stevenson and Javonte. So maybe you could grab Genty, trade back, get some extra draft capital, grab another running back there.
And if you could trade back and stay in the top 5, I think that'd be great. If you can trade back from the 102, definitely go with Genty. And then in this situation, as much as I would like to have Ward, your running backs do suck. Yeah. So I think it would be Genty and Hampton if you're sitting there at the 102 as well. If you can trade back to the 105, maybe you do pick up a falling Cam Ward. Maybe you pick up, one of Judkins, one of Henderson, or maybe even a Ted McMillan. But I think you probably do at this point want to go running back with those first 2 picks. It would be nice to get Cam Ward because I don't think that you're necessarily sitting there great long-term because you want to have that 3rd guy. I don't believe that Michael Penix is that guy just yet. I'd be comfortable having Ward and Penix as my quarterback 2 and quarterback 3. That's a nice situation to be in, but you need the running back help right now, depending on what the rest of your team looks like. If you're making your way into a rebuild right now, it might be a better opportunity to go get Ward with that 102. But if you're trying to be competitive at all, I think you're better off getting the 2 running backs.
Here's a good one from 8Town21. So any interest in 3rd-round wide receivers outside of Kyle Williams and Jalen Noel?
Let's throw this one over to Zach.
All right, so we have, aside from Kyle Williams and Jalen Noel, we have Isaac Tesla going to the Lions, Pat Bryant going to the Broncos, Savion Williams going to the Packers, and Ty Felton going to the Vikings. Those are all of our 3rd-round wide receivers that were drafted last night. So, Zach, do your thing.
So I'll just start off by saying I told you so about Isaac Tesla. Nate and I did a mailbag video, and he did too. We got a question about sleeper wide receivers, and we both talked about Isaac Tesla. Let me also say this. I think this is a fantastic move for the Detroit Lions, and I don't think it's a great move for fantasy speaking. Like, if he's there in your 4th round, sure. But I think he slots in as like the Tim Patrick role for this team. Everyone's like, oh, does this mean Jameson Williams is out? Like, no, it does not. By no means do I think that. They love Jameson Williams. They invested a lot of assets and time into Jameson Williams. Being patient for him to come back from injury, from 2 suspensions. So no, I don't. We always do that. I hate that, by the way. Like, just how does this fit into the system as opposed to who's on the way out now, right? Isaac Tesla, one of my favorite sleepers in this draft. I can't believe he got day 2 capital.
I know.
But the Lions traded up 32 spots to get him,
which is insane.
And they traded 2 third-round picks next year and 102 this year. So 102 and 2/3 next year. That's a lot. They believe in Isaac Tesla. I'm just saying, I don't know. This is not a super fantasy relevant move. If he's there in your 4th round, short. Pat Bryant is really interesting.
I was going to say, Pat Bryant is someone I don't feel necessarily a ton of confidence in the moment, but he's intriguing enough because of the lack of, a really firm wide receiver outside of Cortland Sutton in that wide receiver room. Yeah, Troy Franklin's there. Yeah, Marvin Mims there. They've both shown flashes. But Pat Bryant, with the 3rd-round draft capital, he has as good a chance as anybody to be kind of that staple in what is a Bo Nix offense and a Sean Payton offense that is going to continue to improve and be productive. I'm definitely interested in Pat Bryant. It's probably still not until the 4th round, maybe late 3rd, depending on how this all works out. But, I'm not over-investing in him, but he's definitely, keeping my eye.
And Pat Bryant, too, is solely an X receiver. Like, he is not anything else. He's not a Z, not a Y, not a flanker. He's solely an X receiver. And Cortland Sutton is on the last year of his contract, so maybe this is a move for the future. I thought both the Broncos' day 2 picks were significant reaches. Like, they got R.J. Harvey and Pat Bryant, both who I had definitely going day 3. So this was kind of a shock to me.
Kind of seems like a Sean Payton thing, though. I feel like he just kind of gets who he wants.
Yeah. And then you got
Bill Belichick would do that.
Jalen Noel, I don't know how he's going to fit into the Houston offense. Maybe you can attest to that more. I don't want to touch Savion Williams or Ty Felton, just to be honest with you.
Yeah, so what I think what's going to happen with the Texans, which is interesting because they also got Christian Kirk who they brought in. So we got Nico. Nico's going to be playing the X there. We're going to continue to see that. He'll be the wide receiver 1 there by far. Sounds like Jaden Higgins could be moving into becoming a power slot for this team, which is what a lot of people were kind of worried about his separation ability. Well, if he goes into the slot, then we don't have to worry about his separation. Everything else he does really, really well. Creates a lot of good opportunities for him and C.J. Stroud. Jalen Noel will probably be that flanker, which is what Christian Kirk may or may not play. I mean, he's going to play in the slot a little bit, but he's a very different player than Higgins. Christian Kirk can also play outside as that flanker. That's what he did at Arizona most of the time, running those deep routes. That's what I think Jalen Noel will be doing for this team. I don't love this landing spot for Noel. I think it kind of puts him into that deep threat role, which he's going to be able to do really well. But will he get those underneath routes that let him have yards after the catch? I'm not sure. It's going to depend on how it works out between him and his teammate, Jaden Higgins. And then, Christian Kirk's still there. So a little bit of a crowded wide receiver room after Nico Collins. I don't think this really hurts him at all. But it is going to be interesting kind of wading through the muddiness of who is truly the wide receiver 2 and who is the wide receiver 3. And someone's got to be the wide receiver 4 out of those 4 guys we just talked about. So it's going to be interesting to see how it all plays out. It might be Christian Kirk. He might be – this is the last thought there. But the rookie's got to show up and get on the field first.
And I'm just not touching Savion Williams or Ty Felton.
No. I don't think Ty Felton, go Terps. Love it that he got day 2 draft capital. He's a deep threat to me. If anything, it helps Jordan Addison out, lets him maybe kick into the slot a little bit and get some more underneath routes to use that yak. Jordan Addison was used as that deep threat last year. So, Ty Felton can kind of be that clearing out wide receiver. Savion Williams, I was never really interested in the first place, but he does have a lot of athleticism. 6'4", 230 pounds, ran a 4.48 or something like that. So, there's a lot of traits to like there, but this couldn't have been like a worse landing spot for him.
He's Cordarrelle Patterson is what he is.
Yeah.
And
Savion Williams' baby had an operation when she was 3 days old, by the way.
Oh, thank God.
Any
more annoying draft pick than Savion Williams for the Packers? Like, that one gets announced, and you're just like, why? Like, why?
They already have so many.
Why do you have to keep doing this?
What do they need another one for?
Okay, let's talk about running backs for a second. Mr. Grapefruit wants to know, I can't help but think Devin Neal, Bashal Tootin, and DJ Giddens get drafted in the 4th round. I agree, except for Bashal Tootin.
How dare you, Dylan Sampson?
I think he's a round 6, round 7 guy. But the other guys, I could definitely see that. Bolt Bleeder wants to know, Jack Besh, Kyle Williams, or Jalen Noel, best landing spot? For me, it's Jack Besh.
Probably Jack Besh.
Yeah, Zach, agree?
I think also Kyle Williams in the long term has a really nice landing spot. But that's probably 1, 2, 3 right there. Besh, Williams, Noel.
Which is a shame because I love Noel, and so many people had Noel even kind of getting into like the top 5 of this wide receiver class.
Yeah.
And I don't hate the draft capital. 3rd round's fine, but the Texans landing spot, that's become another kind of crowded wide receiver room. So it could work out quite well where maybe Noel becomes the wide receiver 2. I think anyone there has a chance to become the wide receiver 2. I think Higgins, Noel, both of them have the opportunity, but it's going to be a lot harder now than it used to be.
So we're going to be heading out of here in about 10 minutes so we can get ready to watch the draft. So let's go through some of these quickly here. Dancy wants to know, do you think it would be an overpay/draft to get Judkins at the 102? If you know the 103 is taking one of the 2 Ohio State running backs, if I even moved up that high, would you just look towards Hampton? Nate, what are your thoughts there?
I would take Hampton. He's a 1st-round pick. He went to the Chargers, great landing spot. I think the Judkins pick, I would have him as high as the 103. I think the 102, you might be getting a little too cute, might be overthinking a little bit. I think Hampton is the 102 here. The 1st-round draft capital for running back is just, it's hard to come by these days. So you got to take it for what it is.
Zach, Matt B wants to know, did everyone's rookie 2nd-round draft picks lose value after last night? Do you like Caleb Johnson with bad landing spots? I actually disagree. I think Caleb Johnson's landing spot was fantastic. Shador is undrafted. As of right now, he's going to get drafted today, we think. I'm less excited about my 204.
No, not at all. I love the 2nd round. I quite usually love 2nd round picks, but I have no issue with them this year. We haven't even talked about tight ends. Like we had 6 tight ends drafted yesterday.
We're about to in a second.
Yeah. So no, Caleb Johnson got a great landing spot. I think it's
fantastic.
Absolutely.
So much. There's 15 to 20 touches for him in that offense every single game, right off the rip.
I complimented Najee Harris just like 2 weeks ago, and this is a great spot for him. I don't think there's if you're like, oh, well, Caleb Williams can't be the RB1 overall now. Well, yeah, I don't think he was going to be in the first place, but I had him pegged as a really good RB2, and I think that can still continue with the Steelers.
Real briefly, we haven't even touched on Trey Harris in the 2nd round for the Chargers. I'm just saying, 2nd round picks, like 2nd round picks.
I mean,
you're okay with it.
I'm a Trey Harris stan. Retired Ridley Truther, and you did also say you're from South Philly, so I'm assuming go Birds. If not, you got to move.
Retired Ridley Truther.
Where does Mason Taylor rank among the day 2 wide receivers? I'm assuming he meant day 2 tight ends. So day 2 tight ends, we had Mason Taylor, Terrence Ferguson, Elijah Arroyo, as Sean Alexander said, and Harold Fannin Jr. I'm putting him 2nd. Personally, I would put Terrence Ferguson 1st.
Yes.
Then Mason Taylor. And then I guess Elijah Arroyo and Harold Fannin is how I would round it out personally.
I would have Mason Taylor as the number 1 day 2 tight end. I like Terrence Ferguson a lot. I think it's a great landing spot. I think Mason Taylor's a much better prospect, though, all around kind of higher upside guy, more ready to go. I think Terrence Ferguson, especially, you're not going to have as much production right away as you could have with Mason Taylor. Now, if you want to rank him among the day 2 wide receivers in a 2 tight end premium league, I think Mason Taylor probably goes after the Higgins burden. I'm about at that point ready to look at him before I look at Harris, Betch, Williams, Tesla, any of those guys, Jalen Noel. I think he's in that category at that point.
I think for me with Mason Taylor is I'm just not expecting that Jets offense to be very pass heavy. They got Justin Fields there, Breece Hall's there, Brandon Allen's there. I think they're going to do a lot of running the football. Talent-wise, I agree with you. I like Mason Taylor over Terrence Ferguson. I just love the Rams tight end more than I love the Jets tight end. I will say Cole Kmet was a top 10 fantasy tight end with Justin Fields. That's all I'll add.
He was.
And there's not a lot of other competition for targets in New York with the Jets.
I just don't understand that Justin Fields going to the Jets. I mean, the Pittsburgh Steelers are really fumbling in here with their quarterback position this year. Russ played well. Justin Fields played well. And they said, you know what? How about neither? It's like, oh, hey, Mason Rudolph, you were a 2nd-round pick of ours at one point in time. Yeah, we were trying to forget that. So retired Ridley Truther said, I did mean the wide receivers. I like Taylor over these wide receivers based on being with the Rams and Stafford and higher tight end premium leagues. So, I mean, if there's still some wide receivers, I guess I would put some of these guys over a day 2 wide receiver, like probably Trey Harris. I mean, I still want Jaden Higgins, Luther Burden, maybe Jack Besh over a guy like that. But Trey Harris is the only day 2 wide receiver or round 2 wide receiver. We had some guys like Kyle Williams, Isaac Tesla. There's some of the 3rd-round wide receivers we talked about who I would move under these tight ends as well. They took Ty Felton, Savion Williams, Pat Bryant. Isaac Tesla. I like these guys, but they're going to be better for your NFL team than your fantasy team. I think that's pretty much it. We can kind of wrap it up there. It was a nice live stream. Should we live stream more? What do you guys think? Zach thinks we should. Zach does think.
I think we should. We should live stream more.
Well, we're going to be back tomorrow. We're going to be back a little bit earlier tomorrow. So tomorrow's going to be around 10 a.m. We do have to make it a somewhat shorter live stream. Zach's got to get to the airport. I got to get to the train station. So, and Nick is saying, yes, we should live stream more. So, yeah, for sure. And look, see, everyone agrees. So, yeah, most likely it won't be on the weekends. We'll probably, maybe we could do some on the weekends, mostly likely during the week. Like
we're going to have a powwow and we're going to figure it out.
If I hear the word powwow one more time, someone's going to need to super chat me some bail money. So, Waffle's even saying live stream way more Italian.
Thank you, Waffle.
We're working on that. A lot of things changing here at the Dynasty Rewind, but it's all, hey, look at this guy. I love that name, by the way. Slayer. Slayer was one of the first concerts I ever saw. I was 15. Saw Slayer and Pantera at the Wells Fargo Center in Philadelphia. My parents still don't know I went to that concert. So, all right, everybody, thank you so much for tuning in. For Zach and Nate, I'm Mike. We'll be back tomorrow, 10 a.m. for our last live stream of Draft Weekend. Thank you again for watching, everybody.